going crooked. Hi, welcome back everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. Thanks for joining me on this next video. So for this video, we're going to be doing a home DIY on my own coffee table. I was actually thinking about throwing it out when I looked at it and I was like, I have all this time on my hands now, so why not do a home DIY? And I thought this would be a great video right now because everyone has a lot of time on their hands, and I know we're all spending so much more time at home. So why not take a piece of furniture, redo it, do a little makeover, and turn it brand new. So come along and let's go. Okay, so this is my current coffee table, which we got at our last place. I got this table on Let Go, and I haven't done much to it since I bought it 3 years ago. So you can tell it definitely needs a makeover. So here's a picture of what I want it to look like. I will be adding that bottom part to it, but that's definitely optional depending on what you're working on and what tools you have. The materials needed for this project, it's going to be white paint, sanding machine, pre-stain, stain sealer, stain cloth, stain color, sanding paper, paintbrushes, and paint tray. These next couple items are only if you're going to be adding that bottom part, which you'll need a wood board, wood glue, hammer and nails, screwdriver, power drill, protective eyewear, and circular saw. All that, let's get started. So I started by sanding the top of the coffee table with a 120 grit sandpaper. The easy way to remember the grit numbers is that the lower the number, the more it's going to remove, and the higher the number, the less it's going to remove. And I used the 120 grit sandpaper twice, but after wiping it down, I felt like it wasn't removing enough. So then I went down to a 60 grit sandpaper. And then I ran that on the top of the coffee table for about 3 more times. I was making sure to mostly sand the top as that's where we will be adding the stain color and the rest will be painted white. You want to sand it down enough to remove the top layer of wood, but not too much that it damages the wood. After you're done sanding it, go ahead and wipe off all that excess dust. And then once you're done, let's move on to the next step. For this part, we will be working on the bottom of the table, so if you are not adding that bottom layer to the table, feel free to just skip over this part. Here I'm using a reciprocating saw, but I do recommend using a circular saw to get a more precise cut. I just decided not to spend money on a new one and just use what I already had at home. Since I was using a reciprocating saw, it was moving the board quite a bit, so I did have to put some weights on top of it to make sure it didn't move when I was cutting down the line. So this wooden board came sized ready at 20 by 48 inches, and I drew a line for my desired length, which was 20 by 40 inches. After that, you just want to make sure you cut along the line as straight as possible. And make sure you keep any leftover wood as we will be using that shortly. Okay, so the next step once you've cut your wood is you want to get your sanding machine and sand the edge that you just cut. Since I was using that reciprocator saw, I didn't get as straight of a line as I wanted, so I did have to sand quite a bit to make that line straight. This is why I do recommend using a circular saw instead of the reciprocator saw. With your circular saw, you will be able to get a nice straight line. For this next step, I unfortunately did not realize that the camera was not rolling, but with the extra part of the wooden board, you're going to make 4 square pieces. Since I was using the reciprocating saw, they did come out all different sizes. I then went and used my sanding machine to try and sand them down as close to the same size as possible. These 4 blocks are going to be going under the board to hold up the board in place. Once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and measure where you want your wooden board and the blocks to meet. Once you've measured that, you're going to go ahead and take your wooden board and place it down. We're then going to take our wood glue and we're going to be using this to put the wooden board and the wood blocks in place. Next, I went ahead and got some glue on the wooden blocks and went ahead and attached it to each of the coffee table legs. You want to make sure that you do apply pressure for a couple minutes and make sure that it does not move around. Then go ahead and repeat this process for the other 3 blocks. I don't recommend adding as much glue as you see me adding here. I did quickly realize that a little bit goes a long way, and if you do add a lot, it will be dripping down. So after looking at it, I wanted to make sure it was more secured in place. So I did ask some help to go ahead and secure these blocks in. Now that I've added the wooden board to the bottom, we went ahead and flipped it over. Make sure to wipe off any dust. You want to make sure that you clean it off with a towel and a little bit of water. You want to basically get the coffee table ready for staining and painting. Once you're done cleaning off the table, you're going to go ahead and open up your pre-stain. You can use a stain cloth or just an old t-shirt if you have one. Here I'm taking the stain cloth and dipping it into the pre-stain. You want to make sure you cover all the areas that you will be staining. Then you're going to let it dry for about 5 to 15 minutes and then remove any excess. Once the pre-stain is dry, you're going to go ahead and open up your stain color. I decided to go with the color dark walnut. With another stain cloth, I went ahead and dipped it into the stain color and started putting the stain all over the table. Try and put an even coat all over the table. Don't worry about being perfect. We will wipe out any excess at the end. You also want to make sure that you are following the grain of the wood just so it has a better look at the end. This is what the table looks like with 1 coat of stain. You want to make sure you wait 2 to 4 hours before applying another coat. While I let the stain dry, I decided to go ahead and paint the rest of the coffee table white. Make sure you do remove any furniture knobs as you don't want to get any paint on it. I did also take this off as I will be adding new ones at the end. Then all you want to do is grab your paint and your brushes. Be sure to be extra careful not to get any on the stain. And you want to make sure you just paint everything and cover all the edges as well as underneath in those nooks and crannies. This step can be time consuming, so I did ask for some help just so we can finish this a little bit quicker. Once I was finished painting, I did let this dry overnight just so the paint and the stain can dry before adding another coat. Once you have your desired stain color, you're going to go ahead and open up your stain sealer, which will go ahead and protect your coffee table. I did add another layer of stain color to this off camera before applying the stain sealer, just to get the desired color I wanted and make it a bit darker. When applying the stain sealer, I do recommend using a brush instead of a cloth, just to get a better application. You want to go ahead and wait 2 to 4 hours before reapplying another coat. I ended up applying 3 coats, which was what was recommended on the can. So I went ahead and let this dry overnight. Once I was done painting and staining, I went ahead and changed out these knobs. I wanted to get something bigger and a bit more rustic feeling. The last step to this is you're going to go ahead and take your sander and just sand it in places that it would normally have some wear and tear where the paint would chip off. I did this so it could have more of a farmhouse feel. This is definitely personal preference. Feel free to just leave it as white if you like. When I was finished sanding it down, I did notice that the bottom board was too white and didn't really match the rest of the coffee table. So I went ahead and got a black Sharpie, put it on my finger, and I just smudged the edges to make it look like I did sand it and there was black paint on the bottom. And then you're done. So this is what the final product looks like. I was so happy with how everything turned out. It honestly looks like a brand new coffee table. I also have more storage on the bottom of the coffee table now.
Alright guys, so thanks for joining me on this video of mine. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys have any tips or any ideas for my next video, feel free to drop it down in the comments. I will be also listing all the links and the prices of everything down below. For the most part, I definitely recommend if you don't have a tool, you can always reach out to someone who may have it. I did list also a couple links below on some good sanders that you can buy. If you have any questions though, just feel free to reach out. I am available here through YouTube as well as through my Instagram. If you don't already follow me on my Instagram, I'll put a link down below if you guys want to see the end result on how it's going to look eventually with the carpet down below. But as always, stay hungry, stay humble guys. Bye!